Growing up in the early 2000s, playing online games was sometimes a little difficult. On one hand, playing a game online, making friends, discovering something new, and feeling like the game never ended was amazing for my little child brain. On the other hand, many of the big budget MMORPGs at the time, like World of Warcraft, had a subscription fee that my parents weren't exactly too keen on paying for monthly, even if it was only $15 a month. Heck, even RuneScape, which was only $5 a month, I had to trick my dad into paying by adding it into our phone bill for a few months, until he finally found me out and put a stop to it. Eventually, as I grew older, I was able to pay for these monthly fees no problem, but when I was growing up, obviously I had to find alternatives. That's when the late night internet browsing began. No, not that kind of internet browsing, the kind where you googled free-to-play MMOs. Remember that? This is when I would find a ton of free-to-play MMORPGs that I've covered on the channel, one of them being the subject of today's video. Endless Online, a 2D isometric free-to-play anime light MMO that originally released all the way back in 2003. It was a game that really prided itself on its name of being truly endless, essentially capitalizing on the idea of MMORPGs having endless content or goals to complete. I remember the allure of the game being that it was so hard to level up and gain power, with a lot of players being lucky to even get to level 30-ish. Back then, seeing players a higher level than you was a wondrous experience. It made you want to keep playing so that you may one day be as powerful as them. Over the years, as MMOs evolved, Endless Online understandably faded into obscurity. The game was never immensely popular by any means, but it had a dedicated fan base. Ultimately though, the game did end up shutting down a few times over its history, with its current version being up since 2023. The website even has archives of the original developer notes and releases, which is great for game preservation and documentation, since that seems to get missed for small indie games like this. So why would anyone want to play Endless Online nowadays though? Let's talk about Endless Online in 2025 and why someone might want to give it a shot. So Endless Online has a few ways to play the game similar to City of Heroes. There are several servers beyond the official one. Each server does things slightly differently, like changing progression, gameplay, graphical interface, and more. However, from what I understand, many of the custom servers don't really hold much of a population nowadays since the official game returned in 2023. However you wish to play, simply visit the website, register an account, download the game, install it, and begin playing. For this video, we'll be referencing the official Endless Online server. Once you've created your account, you then create your character. Character creation has quite a bit of options for a 2D pixel MMORPG, with options for gender, race, species, and hairstyles, with all of these choices being purely cosmetic and having no influence on gameplay. Although, for some reason on the official Endless Online server, the animal species options are locked. I guess they just don't like furries.
Why are we still here? Just to suffer?
Well, at least they are locked from character creation. Apparently you can unlock them via crafting. Once you like your look, you alternatively have the options of making your character an Iron Man or hardcore, if you wish to play with a bit of extra challenge. Getting into game, you are met with a tutorial quest that introduces you to the game's mechanics, teaching you how to move, interact with NPCs or objects, combat, and more. The tutorial can feel a bit long, but once you get a feel for the game, it's not too bad. Completing the tutorial takes you to the first town of Avon, where you can begin picking up quests, fighting enemies, and leveling up. The tutorial sort of introduces a quote-unquote storyline you can follow, but Endless Online comes from an era of MMOs where a story was not important. You played the game back then for the community and its gameplay. Speaking of gameplay, you'll probably notice that the game doesn't really hold your hand or give any sort of direction. The game encourages you to talk to pretty much every NPC you come across and explore every nook and cranny. It comes from that classic era of MMO where you are given the freedom to walk around and do whatever you want. But if you do want some direction, I recommend finding some guides online that will push you onto the right path. And there are some systems in place that help, like the quest menu showing you what quests that are available to you at your level and which ones are repeatable. The gameplay of Endless Online is going to probably be the biggest hurdle for most people nowadays. Back in the early 2000s, there wasn't a ton of free-to-play MMOs for Endless to compete against. Nowadays, you have so many free games to play. It's hard to convince someone to give something like this
It's the biggest piece of dog shit.
a try in 2025. Now, to be fair, there is a ton of nostalgia for classic retro MMOs like this, so it's not entirely unappealing. Combat is action-based. Walking up to enemies and pressing control on the keyboard will have you start attacking them, with spells being assigned to various hotkeys, sort of like classic MapleStory, just with less flashy skills to spam. Quests have a mix of puzzle solving, exploration, and fetch activities to them, so thankfully, questing can actually be enjoyable rather than monotonous. There are various community events and PvP activities you can take part in to get various rewards. Progression has various systems in place that really get more complex once you hit level 10, which can take a while admittedly. Of course, you have equipment that can offer you various stat bonuses and defenses depending on what types of armor you choose to wear. At level 10, you can complete a quest that allows you to unlock class choices, with the classes being Paladin, Warrior, Priest, Rogue, Archer, and Magician. Unfortunately, much like a lot of the game though, skills and spells for each class aren't exactly just learned automatically. You have to go find specific NPCs that will teach you skills that relate to classes, and that's even if your class has any skills to learn. Honestly, when I tried to figure out any of the game's oddities, I can't find any information on it. Some of the guides I found online don't necessarily have all the information on topics that people may be looking for. For instance, as the Priest class, where do I learn any of my spells and abilities? Do I need to level up my class to learn abilities? What's the benefits of leveling my class in the first place? Should I try to level all my classes? The community isn't much help either sometimes, so it can be a bit frustrating trying to find specific information. Generally, the game just feels so incomplete, like it's in a beta, which is sort of how the game has been for the past 20 years. Over the course of the game's history, development would start and then just stop for months on end, with specific content just never getting finished. At this point, the community that has stuck with Endless Online over the past 2 decades have most likely been with the game since day one. For many, it was their first MMORPG, their first online social hub, their first taste of the virtual worlds that MMOs can offer. Nostalgia like that I can completely understand, and while I didn't really experience Endless Online myself back in the day, I can see why people who played it back in the day would want to return to it. Sadly, it's just a bit difficult to recommend Endless Online to someone who's never played it before. The game sorely needs built-in guides or some sort of direction that will help players ease into its systems. Right now, it just feels like a game that you roam around in with other people and fumble about until you find things. Luckily, the development efforts that have started in 2023 seem to be trying to address some of the game's shortcomings, so maybe in the future, those issues I've mentioned will no longer exist. Until then though, that is Endless Online. Have you played it before? Are you currently playing it? And do you want to play it after watching this video? Comment down below and let me know. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel to support my content. Follow all my social media links in the description below, and I hope to see you all next time.